Alright guys, so this is Coach Eric at Rockbox Mooresville. There's one stretch that I want to talk to you guys a lot about, and this is kind of one that I think for the general population, this is one of your most useful stretches. Part of the problem that society has today is that we sit a lot, and I know a lot of people have done things like switching to standing desk, which is great, but even like the way you sit on a couch, the way you sit in your car, when you're working at school or at a desk or whatever your situation may be, the hip crease gets closed off a lot, which causes a lot of problems in the psoas, the iliacus, the hip flexor group in general. So one stretch I always like to come back to is if you put yourself in a kneeling position, and it may help to put something soft under a knee like a pillow if you're at home, or if you have like access to mats that you can fold up, or like foam blocks. Slide something under your knee just to be a little bit more comfortable. But basically what we're working on here is we're going to tilt our pelvis, and we're going to think about trying to rock our pelvis forward and backwards out of this particular position. So on this side, I'm going to use my left glute and my core, and I'm going to think about trying to tilt my pelvis forward, right? So I don't want to push into my leg, right, for a couple reasons that would take way too long to explain, but I don't want to push forward at least until I found pelvic tilt, right? So here I'm tilting back, I'm pointing my tailbone backwards, I'm letting my belt buckle drop to the floor. But when I tilt forward, I'm going to squeeze my glute, I'm going to contract my core, and I'm going to imagine I'm trying to tilt my belt buckle up or take my tailbone underneath my body, right? And immediately you'll feel a big stretch across the hip, and sometimes goes all the way down into the quad and the patella or the kneecap. And the reason that you'll feel that in different places is because all of those muscles are linked together. So a lot of people don't realize that the knee pain that they're having is actually because of hip tightness. It has nothing to do with their knees at all. Most people actually have fairly healthy knees. It's the hips, the ankles that tend to play games with us and make us think that we are hurting in places that we're not actually hurting, right? So if you have knee pain, if you have hip pain, this is one that I would definitely come back to. If you sit a lot, I would definitely use this every single day, just as a general stretch to help keep your hips mobile. If your hips tighten up, right, and your hip crease closes, you're going to have that knee pain that we were talking about. You're also going to have compression in your low back, right, your low vertebrae, those lumbar discs. And we don't like when our lumbar discs get a lot of compression, because that's how we inch our way closer to one day having a bulge disc or having something worse happen that we don't want to deal with. So like I said, really the only part of this drill, and it's really, really simple, but it's kind of a hard feeling to find, is that we want to think about taking our hips. If it helps to put your hands on your hips, please do. But think about tilting your pelvis forward and letting that bowl drift down, right? Letting the belt buckle drift down. And then we're going to tilt our hips back underneath us, squeeze the glutes, squeeze the belly, lift the belt buckle, and we should feel this big fire all the way through our quad, all the way through the front part of our hip. The other one I like to do from this position, very, very similar. We'll take the same kneeling stance, but I'm going to take my foot and I'm going to point it out to the window out here. So it's a really, really great groin stretch for anybody who gets tight in their adductors, especially like throwing roundhouse kicks. A lot of those kicks take a weird type of flexibility. So all I'm going to do here is, once I found that same pelvic tilt position, I don't want to be back here. I don't want my tailbone to drift away from me. I want to bring my tailbone underneath me, take my belt buckle up in the front so you can read it, and then I'm going to drift into this open knee, right? And if you're looking at this from another angle, the big key here is that we don't want to let the tailbone drift back, and we don't want to let the knee come forward, right? We want the knee out, or even thinking about pushing it backwards like we're trying to drive it behind us. And we're going to keep our tailbone and our belt buckle forward, right? So belt buckle's forward, my belly's tight, my glutes engaged, and I'm just drifting into that right side until I feel a big stretch in that groin. Sometimes we'll come on the left or the right side, just depends on who you are. Cool. Thanks, guys.